of course, I went to the doctors, like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? And I just kept getting the answer, we've done all these tests. There's nothing wrong with you. You just need these pills. Take some anxiety meds.
Pills were the answer.
Yeah.
Of course.
Of course. So I really needed another way out. And for me, that was yoga. I had done yoga off and on through my 20s and 30s.
On YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Studios.
Yeah, in studios. And then, the back then DVDs.
Yeah. DVD sets. Yes. Yeah.
So I reached out, through prayer and meditation and just movement practices, trying to get my mind to calm down. And I believe I was giving myself an autoimmune disease.
Welcome back, everybody, to the When People Awaken podcast. I'm Shalisa. I'm here with Tightness.
Hey.
And today we're interviewing a very, very special guest, our friend and fellow healer, Sarah Cummins of Waterfall Yoga Therapy. Mm-hmm. So, Sarah, or Tightness.
I think I found you randomly on Facebook.
Was that it?
Like months ago.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you guys who don't know, the Humphrey Yoga scene is pretty small and building. And as I was searching to find other yogis in the city, I would just search on YouTube or on Facebook or on Google to find yogis. And I found this woman here. And I found that she did yoga therapy as well. And I didn't find her, though, until we had an event with HPA, which is now NAP, a holistic healing group. So I think you walked in that day with
Emily.
With Emily.
Emily Willis.
With Emily Willis.
Yeah.
Yes.
We've also interviewed.
We have as well. So Sarah, then tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do for the community.
Yeah. So I really just help people with trying to overcome pain, chronic pain sometimes, in a way that kind of shifts their mindset to healthier lifestyle habits, to thinking about their bodies and their minds in a different way, like making that mind-body connection. A lot of times when people have chronic pain, they are very disconnected. They dissociate from the part of the body that's in pain, especially when it's been long-lasting. And so I help them develop a new mindset around that. And
it's powerful.
Yeah, using, yoga therapy is very much a whole person approach. So we're looking at not just, what's the physical reason for that pain there, or what does that physical pain feel like, but rather, how do you associate with it? Do you associate with, like, hi, I'm Sarah and I have fibromyalgia, and it identifies you? Was there an emotional event or circumstance that happened at the onset of this pain? A lot of these things that the doctors and physicians don't have time to dive into when they're seeing someone. So instead of looking at the symptoms and treating the symptoms, I'm trying to help them find the root of the problem and work with the layers of the onion, the emotional, the spiritual, the mental, and all of that associated with the physical pain.
And that's something that you really can't do in a yoga class.
Yeah.
Hence this space. Oh my God. We'll get there though. You got a question?
Yeah, so I loved how you were mentioning, like, finding the association with the pain or the issue in the body. But I feel like a lot of times when people come to that realization, there's been something happening prior that they weren't aware of. So can you tell us kind of like your journey getting here? Like, what was your life like before you even became a yoga therapist or a holistic healer?
Yeah, so all of those experiences are what led me to where I am today.
In your own life.
Yeah, probably how you got to where you are as well.
In some ways, yeah. Anxiety for me for sure. Yeah.
So I'm from Kansas. I married my high school sweetheart when I was 20. He was in ROTC, Air Force, and joined the military. So we've lived all over the country, in Germany twice, in the past 20 years. And during that time, of course, we were in a time of war the entire 20 years.
Okay.
Wow. He was gone a lot, especially during the period after we had our son, Gavin, and he was deployed during the time that they caught Saddam Hussein and Osama bin Laden.
Wow.
So it was a time where you don't want anyone to tell you about the news. You don't want to turn on TV. You just kind of want to be left alone with that whole thing, and not knowing when they're going to call next or when you're going to, find out where they've been or what they've been doing. All of that just was so stressful, and so I had so much anxiety over that. And then, of course, I was raising my son, and when they're little, they get sick with everything, and then you get sick, and there's no one to take care of you. And you're sleep deprived. I was sleep deprived for the entire 4 years that my husband was pretty much gone off and on. And we weren't near family, so it was just really, really hard on my body and mind. And of course, I went to the doctors, like, what's wrong with me? And I just kept getting the answer, we've done all these tests. There's nothing wrong with you. You just need these pills. Take some anxiety meds.
Pills were the answer.
Yeah.
Of
course. So I really needed another way out. And for me, that was yoga. I had done yoga off and on through, my 20s and 30s.
On YouTube?
Mm-hmm.
Studios or gyms?
Yeah, in studios. Yeah. And then, the back then DVDs.
Yeah. The DVD sets. Yes. Yeah.
So I reached out, through prayer and meditation and just movement practices, trying to get my mind to calm down. And I believe I was giving myself an autoimmune disease. And they just hadn't found it yet, And so fast forward to when my husband comes home from all the deployments. He has PTSD, and my son was finally old enough that I could ask myself, okay, what do I want to be when I grow up? Now that I'm not doing this full time anymore, and I have more time to myself. And so I started going to yoga classes again, and I started it was almost like God was giving me these little breadcrumbs, like, hey, here's a class, here's a teacher, here's somebody who is looking at you in the yoga class and wants you to be their teacher. And so I took teacher training, and then after teacher training, I wanted to keep learning more.
What style training did you take?
Ashtanga.
Ashtanga. Okay.
It was the only training available in Montgomery, Alabama at the time.
Okay. Ashtanga is intense.
Yeah.
Specific.
Very intense.
Yeah.
And I actually got an injury while I was in training.
Okay.
So it was not probably the safest kind of yoga for my body. I have scoliosis.
Or for your goal either.
Or for my goal, yes. Which then I was just like, my goal was to not be stressed anymore.
Right.
And so then I was directed under someone who became my mentor. She was a retired military vet. She was a nurse. And she had opened up a studio in Montgomery that was going to be yoga for everybody. And so her yoga was tailored more towards Ayurveda, or the sister science of yoga, and to help older people to be able to feel comfortable coming to yoga, or people who are maybe overweight or who had never done yoga before and needed a gentler practice. And she was comfortable because she was also older, and she was also an injured veteran, and so it was just a totally different vibe. And she started opening a school, a 200-hour teacher training under Ayurvedic yoga.
Nice.
And so
in Montgomery.
So she brought me in as her aide, and I got to take another 200-hour training in a total different branch of yoga.
Nice.
And when I did that, I just discovered it was like there was so much more to learn, and there was such an easier, more gentle practice for people, and it was much more approachable than Ashtanga. So she kind of told me if I was younger and I was going to continue my path with yoga, she's like, I would become a yoga therapist. You need to look into yoga therapy. And then we moved to Germany, which that wasn't going to happen. Yeah. Right. But I was working with, it was almost like people who were being attracted to me were people who had really chronic stuff going on, and they couldn't go to a traditional yoga class and feel safe doing it.
Or achieve their goals.
And they just needed someone who would listen and someone who would guide them and help them get back on track with health and healthier lifestyle. And so the people, they were coming to me. It was like people with one of my first clients had a plane crash, and his entire spine was fused. He had a bionic hip, bionic knee. He had a lot of neuropathy. Couldn't walk on his toes anymore because he'd lost all the sensation there. The doctors had told him he'd never walk again. And he went to some great PTs and was determined and very positive that he was going to walk again, and he was going to do all the things. He had a lot of life left in him. And he somehow found me and asked me if I would help him in one-on-one training because the PTs basically said, we're done with you. There's nothing else we can do, but you need to work on your nervous system. And so it was interesting. He came to me, Southern man. He was Christian, and he was like, I don't want the yoga. I just want you to fix me. And I was like, my goodness, why would you do this guy? Like, he's
That's the yoga, though.
There's so many things in yoga that are contradictory to somebody who's had spinal fusion. And
interesting,
So it was kind of like, okay, what can I do with him? And he was such an inspiration to me becoming a yoga therapist because his mindset was already so positive and so trusting and open that, I just kind of met him where he was at. We went to his house and I was like, okay, show me how you get around here. Yeah. And I taught him how to get into his bathtub and do some of the exercises in water.
Wow.
Then we went to a pool and we did yoga therapy in the pool because he felt safer and he could balance and wasn't worried about falling.
Wow.
So we did a lot of really interesting things that were yoga therapy before I was even trained to be a yoga therapist.
Just prior to that.
Just private yoga therapy or private yoga training. And so...
And in a very functional way.
Yeah.
For him.
Yeah.
In his home.
In his lifestyle. How do I make this doable? In a way that I feel safe. And, he had significant changes almost immediately. And just through breathing practice alone, he was able to get off medicine that would help him to have a bowel movement because he had damaged so many internal organs in the crash that within a week doing breath work, he was able to have bowel movements without any medicine.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
So I have a question.
I do too. Go ahead, dude. Go ahead.
So are most of the people you see or most of the clients you have, are they people that have been through the medical system and have reached like kind of this point of no return and they come to you as like,
Yeah, good question. Yes. Usually it's because they've tried everything and there's nothing else.
Yeah.
They don't know where else to turn. Or they're tired of not being heard and being told here's a pill for that.
Or seen.
Yes, or seen, exactly. Yeah. And so, as that person, I'm their guide, I'm their advocate. I'm the person that's going to listen and empathize. They're sitting with me for an hour. They've got 10 minutes with their doctor. And we can talk about all the underlying issues behind what this physical pain is.
Something about any holistic work process, we don't focus on the tool. Yeah. The tool is the person.
Right.
The person is who we go to find the answer. We don't use a medicine or a machine. We go to you, and we spend an hour with learning who you are and why you are and where you've been to then use our tools to help you progress on your path.
Right.
That's awesome. You mentioned something earlier on, nervous system.
Yes.
That the PT said that they can't help with, but that someone else could. Help with. Because most of the time, PTs are just about functionality.
Yes.
muscles, joints, and movement,
Function.
not the nervous system and feeling sensation.
Yeah.
How did that continue with that one gentleman?
Well, he actually,
Or generally as well?
yeah, he never received the sensation back in his feet.
Okay.
But it changed the way he thought about walking and his pattern and his movement.
Okay.
And he learned a new sense of safety in his body.
Safety in body is huge.
He didn't have to worry about it being dangerous, I guess. It was more of a comfort. And a lot of the yoga practices that he didn't want the yoga, I think he meant, I don't want the Sanskrit, I don't want chanting.
Yeah.
But that's really about what yoga therapy is. It's meeting the person where they're at. And I'll say to that, one of the great examples is I get a lot of frozen shoulder from women about my age. And every single time we sit down in the intake and we talk about, well, when did this start? There is some underlying emotional trigger that started this whole thing. And they go to PT, and the PT works on the functional movement, and it's super painful. But they don't always get relief or full range of motion back. So when they come to me, it's like, well, what can you do that's different? And really, it is uncovering the layers of that. Okay, so what happened? And a lot of times there's divorce, or my son moved out, or there's an addiction problem, or something along those lines. And so when we start discussing that and working through the mental, emotional component of that, a lot of the times, yes, we may be doing something physical in movement, somatically, but there's a shift in which there's realization that this isn't a physical problem. This is me not working through that emotional, mental issue that happened at the onset.
And it now lives in the body. So we're going to get in a minute to the other part of your yoga offering. The therapy apparently is a big piece. But somatic is another big piece. We're going to talk about in her studio later on. But for now, any other questions that you have?
No, I think this was great.
Yeah.
You gave us a great overview.
So far?
Yeah, this is awesome.
This is really good.
I'm excited for everyone to see what else is about to happen.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
So stay tuned. Back in a second. We practice in yoga classes not only to succeed in postures, but also to live more freely when we leave those classes. We practice to meet ourselves more fully with compassion and with grace. We practice to remove tension that prevents us from the fullest expression of our mind and our body. To remove obstructions that limit access to the core of who we are. Yoga has always been a tool for me in these ways. I hope that you can begin or continue a practice in yoga with me, either in yoga classes in the city, one-on-one session with me, and of course my soon coming ebook as well. You can find me in Huntsville at Phase 3, at Bar 3, at High Point, at the Fitzgerald, Hot Yoga of Huntsville, and of course personally one-on-one session to learn more, dig in deeper, and explore postures, breath, conversation, meditation with me too. You can find me online on, of course, Instagram, the fourth THAFOURTH, and my website, simiaye.com, SIMIAYE.com. I'll see you soon, and of course, breathe life. So here we are outside of Waterfall Yoga Therapy. Sarah has been able to create an amazing home space / studio space on how many acres?
20.
20 acres that you'll see in a moment that connect and combine her yoga therapy practice with home life as well too. Yoga therapy is what you do, plus. The pluses are what?
Yeah. So I'm a somatic yoga therapist.
Okay.
So soma means living body.
Okay.
A lot of things that we do are somatic.
Okay.
But there's a particular approach, which we'll demo later with you and Shalisa. I also am a pain care aware yoga instructor.
Pain care aware yoga instructor.
Yes.
Wow.
So I got that training when I was at Inner Peace Yoga Therapy, and the training comes from Canada with Neil and Lisa Pearson. He's a physiotherapist there, and she was a Swami, and they're a married couple.
Wow, that's an awesome pairing.
Yeah.
Really cool pairing.
It is very cool. And at Inner Peace Yoga Therapy, we have the opportunity to try a lot of different aspects of yoga therapy. So there are yoga therapists who work with addiction, who work with cancer, who work with nervous system disorders like Parkinson's disease, and so on. And the path that I chose to take was chronic pain.
Okay.
So I studied under Neil and Lisa to learn more about being pain care aware and how to do pain management holistically.
With yoga.
Yes.
Amazing.
Through yoga therapy.
Amazing.
And so those two trainings really help set up the foundation of what I've created here, because somatics is a whole person approach. It's how we are embodied, how we live in life. And a lot of us are disconnected.
From this.
Yes.
From that.
We are very disconnected.
Yeah.
So being able to, somatics is being able to slow down the practice, to be in your body, to be present and aware, and less about shapes and
achieving,
exactly, or trying to accomplish something. It is really just, what am I feeling? Where is it coming from? Where do I feel it in my body? And all of that is really more understanding of pain science. So when I have chronic pain clients coming to me, we learn about neuroplasticity, which is kind of a buzzword.
Love that.
Right
it's
now.
a great buzzword. It is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
But neuroplasticity is that ability to be able to change the brain, to repattern it. And so with somatics, we work a lot with muscular habits, or maybe things that we've just kind of learned over time, especially in the world of being on our devices and forward all the time. So these muscles become chronically tight. And when we practice somatically, we consciously contract the muscles and then consciously decontract them. Yeah. So our cat, I have a cat. We were talking about pets
Beautiful
earlier.
Cat. Softest fur in the world. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But they do something that we would call stretching, right? But it's pendiculation. And the training that I was under was with Eleanor Criswell Hanna. She is Thomas Hanna's wife.
Okay.
And Thomas Hanna was kind of like the founder of this somatics idea.
Noted.
And so he teaches pendiculation, which is really a conscious contraction as they go into their cat pose or their dog pose. Yeah. They're consciously contracting muscles when they awaken, and then they're consciously relaxing and letting them go. Wow. So it resets the muscle and retrains the brain to let go of that chronic habit that we have and be able to relax. So it's if we think about neuroplasticity too, in the form of PTSD, I'm also yoga warrior trained, so trained to work with PTSD, traumatic brain injury, and amputations. In that work, we can think about a trauma situation.
Trauma therapy,
in which we are constantly remembering the trauma. And when we remember the trauma, it creates these neural pathways in the brain. Yeah. So it becomes a frequent traveled road of thought. It's harder to break free of that. Well, the same works for when we have gratitude. If we are grateful for the things around us and we are present and aware of all the little things that are good in our life instead of dwelling on the bad, we're creating new neural pathways towards a positive. Yeah. And so that's really what we're trying to do in a somatic yoga therapy practice. So
you mentioned about the contrast of release and contracting, right? I think what I've seen on the drive up here, Lisa and I both noticed that we were able to release on the drive.
Exactly.
The space here is a space that causes you to release. Tell me about that, how this space has been able to support your goals of yoga therapy and somatics.
Yeah, so what I feel, what my husband feels when we come home every day is that that big, like, audible sigh, because you see the view and you see you're out in nature
there's
and
space.
it's quiet and there's space and there's less rush. It's more relaxing. I wanted to bring that to my clients' experience. So they could come out here, they could do their session, and then they have this time to journal, to reflect, to meditate, to just breathe in some fresh air and be aware of the textures and the colors and the sound as part of their experience.
Awesome. So let's look inside a little bit to kind of see what is inside. We already recorded the interview here as you go in. There we go. So here is home, studio, where you might find yourself one day in yoga therapy with Sarah. Tell us about the space and what happens here and there.
Yeah, so I also offer group classes and wellness retreats. And so my home is this intimate space where people can come and relax and enjoy themselves. It's a very serene space, neutral colors. So when we have a retreat, we're eating dinner at the dining room table, food catered in, we're enjoying time on the porch together, reading, journaling, meditating, creating community. Exactly.
And then way back there
is the yoga space.
And we'll get there in a minute after we go outside to see more of the land and the waterfall of Waterfall therapy. See you in a minute.
Let's pause and take a deep inhale through the nose, holding it at the top of the head, and let it out with a long, loud sigh. As most of you know, I'm a sound healer, and I love to create sacred space to help people reclaim their right to rest through the power of a sound bath journey. Sound baths with me are a sacred space where we explore the connection between nature and sound by honoring the indigenous people, connecting to the earth elements, and restoring the sacred connection between humanity and Mother Earth. All of my sound baths include relaxing breath work, quartz crystal alchemy singing bowls, powerful solar flare gong frequencies, and of course sacred Native American flute playing. So if you're interested in being immersed in a soothing, relaxing, healing sound bath experience with me, please consider coming to a sound bath with me this month. There will be links to register down in our description box, and let's jump back into the podcast. Okay, everyone. So Sarah is about to take us out on her property to see her labyrinth, a little bit of the waterfall, some of the natural scenery around here. So while we're doing that, can you explain what Waterfall Yoga Therapy means, how you came up with the name, where did that even start?
Yeah, so about 2013, it was December of 2013, it had been raining quite a bit. My husband and I decided we wanted to retire in Alabama, and we wanted to find a place where everybody would be happy.
Yeah.
We needed a more progressive location than Montgomery.
Right.
And we wanted more space. My husband's an engineer. My son's into engineering. So we wanted a place that was good for that. And we love Alabama and the people.
Yeah.
So we kind of decided, okay, let's look up near Huntsville in the Madison area.
Right.
So we got a real estate agent. We started looking for some property in different areas of Huntsville.
Right.
And we were out here kind of looking around and finding some things that we really thought were beautiful. And we were kind of at our wits' end. We hadn't found anything that was just right.
Yeah.
So we started driving just up this hill. And as we were coming down, we kept missing this one road. And so we finally took the road. And we came down the hill, and there was a for sale sign, and we pulled into the property, and of course there was no houses here. It was all completely like tall grass and nature.
Yeah.
So we put an offer in, but it was Christmas time,
Oh,
So
wow.
it took a few weeks to get some information back.
Yeah.
They were selling 40 acres. We ended up buying 20 of them.
Wow.
And my real estate agent came out and hiked the property a few weeks later and said, "Did you know you have a full-blown waterfall on the property?" And I was like, I had no idea. So she took some pictures of it. It was frozen at the time.
Oh, wow.
And so it was beautiful. And so fast forward a few years, I'm in yoga therapy training, and I'm in a meditation, and I always meditated in my mind next to a waterfall.
Oh my gosh.
So it came to me at that moment that I had manifested, or God had gifted me this waterfall, almost like telling me I was on the right path.
Yeah.
And I was getting my LLC at the time, so I named the LLC Waterfall Yoga Therapy.
So and when you were meditating, what was it about water or waterfalls that made you more serene or calm, or what was it?
So interestingly enough, when I was little, and this kind of came to me during the meditation too, when I was young, I would draw pictures of waterfalls.
Oh, wow.
And I would write poetry and short stories about waterfalls.
Yeah.
They always had a part in my stories. And so it was kind of this mind-blowing moment that I had a waterfall now, and I didn't even ask for it. I didn't even look for it.
Yeah.
But it just became kind of this thing. Like, my husband will tell a story that when we were going through the process of getting ready to build the house, and it's 2020.
Yeah.
the disaster that year was.
Right.
Everybody was telling us it was going to be so expensive. And we really didn't want to wait any longer to have this dream come true.
Right.
We've been in the military for 20 years. It was time to start the second phase of life.
Right.
So he'll tell a story. He came out here one day after talking to a contractor. And the contractor was like, this is unexplainable amount. And he was so brokenhearted that he came out to the waterfall, and it had been raining a lot here. Torrential downpours, and so the waterfall was just lush. And he literally dropped to his knees and felt the weight of the world just kind of drift off of his shoulders. Oh my gosh. He was so at peace.
Yeah, almost like a sanctuary, it sounds like.
That everything was going to work out.
Yeah.
And it did. So now you get to see all that it's worked out to be so far.
Wow. Yeah, we're walking. We've gone through Sarah's labyrinth. We're walking down this path here. We see the most beautiful view of all the different colors in the trees. It's October right now, so the leaves are all changing. You kind of hear like farm sounds and insect sounds in the background. I'm earthing right now. I can feel, like, even as I'm earthing, that there's something really powerful in this land. When you're earthing, you feel that electric charge kind of surge through your body as you connect to the earth. I'm feeling that. So this is like a really amazing place to be, whether you're here for a retreat, or I'm sure you probably just walk out here alone a lot, don't you?
All the time.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I'll sit and meditate, and if I'm really still, the deer will come out.
Oh my gosh.
And then they kind of look at you and notice you.
Yeah.
And they're not really sure.
Yeah.
So they do their little things. They'll chuff at you and stomp their feet. But it's so cool just to be so close to nature. And
yeah, it sounds like you probably have developed some sort of relationship, not just to the land, but maybe even to the animal spirits and the animals out here. Yeah, this is really amazing. Thank you for sharing this.
I just always like to think about the history that was here before houses and people. And, I know this is really kind of in the Trail of Tears, so I always think about the history of that.
Yeah.
And what they must have seen, what it must have looked like before it was developed.
Well, that's really in alignment with what the podcast has been doing since we started, is by acknowledging the indigenous people, their history, the earth elements. So we're very aligned, I think, in how we're approaching our time here together and what the Titus is running in between us. Wow. Okay, so now we're up almost at the top of this hill. Things who launch here. This is where you and your family hang out? Or
I like to come up here and watch the sunset.
Oh my God.
That's the west. The sun rises here.
Yeah.
Off the back porch and to the east. And so I like to come out here and
meditate. And is this when you were hosting a retreat, do you have events in this area?
Yeah, so we taught outdoor yoga on the nice days. I would like to have a fire pit here someday.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe an outdoor space up here where we can see the waterfall from our yoga mats. And have some trails up here eventually that are more easy to find.
Yeah.
Because it is very rustic. It's been, hundreds and hundreds of years of trees and forest life. So,
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about that? You were telling us before you have these kind of plans to expand and grow and really make this kind of a retreat center in a way. Can you tell us more about it?
I would love to have a bigger space right about where we are now.
Okay.
Kind of looking back here into the waterfall, which we'll see in a second. And have nice sliding glass doors that open out. When you are out here and the waterfall is going, we've had such a dry year. It's been dry a lot longer than it usually is. But you can almost not even hear yourself talk.
Oh my God.
Like you guys would have a hard time hearing audio over the waterfall. It's so loud. So I've got a couple chairs here. We can walk this way a little bit. We can actually just kind of stand on the waterfall.
I'll just go this way.
Yep. You find a safe spot there for your feet.
Oh, wow.
Walk down.
And so this whole area would be just be...
So yeah,
Surging
waterfall all the way down here. And when it's really going, it'll come off of this side part over here too, as well. And then we'll kind of trickle down through this area. Right now it's a waterfall of leaves.
Yeah. You hear all the crunching of the leaves. So how, do you know a metric of how long or wide or whatever this is? Tall or?
I don't have a metric, however, I have hiked all the way to the top of it.
Oh, wow.
So our land goes up this tier that you can see here.
Yeah.
And then it goes up one tier more behind that, and then see the rock ledge. And then our
So you said you guys were just hiking back here one day and you came across
the real estate agent.
the real estate
back here.
and she just came across the waterfall. Does anyone know the actual history of this? Like
No, but what's interesting, like this is all limestone rock, so it's a very rocky area, like much of her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Titus is just not behind.
And
It's amazing.
and so there's probably all kinds of interesting stuff up there in rocks, and the way that the water has formed them over time. Some of them have holes coming straight through them.
Yeah.
But it goes up there quite a ways, and there's actually a pit on the property above ours
Oh my God.
where you could probably just sit in it, almost like a hot tub. And there's some little pits further down because the creek goes all the way down past the house.
Wow.
And what I would like eventually is to have a pump where we have a portion of the waterfall that runs all year round.
Oh my gosh.
That's solar powered, right? And that way, when we are out here, at least there's a portion of some sort of water flowing constantly. Yeah. Even if it's a dry season.
And you had mentioned before, like a hot spring or a pool or something that you wanted to incorporate.
I would like to have a pond put in with a natural pool. So it looks like the environment, but it's a place where you can kind of dip in and take a swim. For right now, when the waterfall's going, I'll just pull one of those chairs in and kind of sit down and put my feet in. The water is usually frigid.
Yeah.
Very, very cold.
Yeah.
But it's really cool because you'll see tadpoles and
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
owls, all kinds of fun stuff like that out here.
And so I think you had mentioned when you were talking about the previous client you had, like with him in the tub and maybe doing yoga in the water. Do you see this becoming related to that at all, or?
I do. I have several visions of that. I think of kind of, if you've heard of forest bathing. So kind of
Shinrin-yoku,
yes, exactly, the Japanese word for it.
Yes.
Being able to come out here as part of the retreat practice and kind of just be in nature. Put your feet in the water, listen to the sound of the water, let it bathe you. And And then there's so many incredible rocks up there that are just perfect for
I would
sitting for
climb
meditation.
every one.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's so much to explore, and that's really what I wanted to bring to the people is to be able to have this time where you come and you take care of yourself, and then you come out here and you implement it, and you let nature soothe you.
Yeah, and you were talking about nervous system work before, and I feel like nature is one of the best medicines, freest medicine we have to do that kind of work to support the nervous system as well. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you, Sarah, for giving us a tour of all of your property, of the waterfall. You guys, make sure you look Sarah up and book these retreats, book her for her workshops and sessions she does, and come out here and see the property and take advantage of what's available out here. We'll see you guys in the next segment we're going to do.
And bring the heels somewhat in line with your sit bones. So not too narrow and not too wide. As you rest your feet on the floor, notice what changed in your pelvis and your spine. One of the most common movements that I utilize for people, or I have people experience almost in every single session, is this cat-cow movement, which all of us are familiar with if you have some form of a yoga practice. But practicing it from a supine position like this is a completely different experience. So I'd like you to now think about your pelvis as the leading point or pivot of this motion. And as you breathe in, I'd like you to tip your pelvis forward so that your tailbone draws down into the mattress, so that your lower back kind of arches up towards the ceiling. And you create this little pit or space underneath your lower back. And feel how the back muscles tighten and contract. And then slowly let go of that and bring your pelvis back to its natural neutral position. So in somatics, we want to move slowly through that. Let's try that again. Pivot by tipping your pelvis forward.